Hello YouTube beauties. This is gonna be the last video for a long time. Just because it's like, I mean, unless if I watch a really good movie, but I'm actually running out of story times to tell. Yeah, like I have some stories that I'm not ready to tell. So those stories, I feel like with my recent ex, I'm not really to tell that until I'm like in a new relationship. I don't know. I just feel like it's too soon to talk about him. And then the ex before that, it's nothing much to really say because we didn't have any drama. I must say, like my military ex from 2017, he was the best boyfriend I had. Like he had his flaws, but he actually was. So I'm like, that's not a story time because he was great. It's just I lost attraction and he had some hygiene problems. But yeah, but like a story time, a tea time, definitely my recent ex. Like that's like a 3-hour situation. I would have to do part 1, part 2 for that. I'm not ready to talk about that, but I wanted to talk about asshole supervisors. So we've all had them, and I wanted to talk about my experiences with security. And I was like, I can't talk about DOE yet because I'm still with DOE. So when I leave DOE, guys, I'm gonna talk about that. But tonight I will talk about security since I ain't with them no more. So Yankee, I didn't really go through anything. They had something called secret shoppers, and basically they were random people that used to come and grade you, and if you got below a 75 you got suspended. So that's not really much to talk about. And then Barclays, I never really got in trouble, but I wanted to talk about Steiner Studios. I worked there for 10 months. It was under a company called Andrew International. I don't even think they're a company anymore. I think they probably shut down. But I was with Andrew International from August 2014 to I want to say February 2015. Because the company I went to after that was Quality Protection Services, and I know I was only with them for matter of fact, it was up to November, and then I was with Quality Protection Services from December to February, because that's when I met the broke businessman, right? So I was at Steiner Studios for 10 months out of the year and a half I was with the company. And from the moment I started, I knew it was stupid, because I literally started with $11 an hour. This is back in 2014, y'all. So y'all like, what? Yes. Before minimum wage went up to 15, y'all remember getting 10 and 11 an hour. Don't front. So I was getting 11 an hour, and it went down to 10, and I still stayed. So another one of my coworkers, the same thing happened to her. I was like, yeah, that was just, and we still stayed. So that was like that was dumb, because I got so used to it. Like, it was celebrities there, it was easy, it was cool at first, it was cool. It was a supervisor there, it was a few supervisors there, but the head honcho was a heavy-set white guy, looked like Dr. Phil. So he was the type of guy that if he had an issue with you, he would never tell you. What he would do is he would video cam you, and he would send an email to everybody, letting everyone know how you can't do your job. And I remember it was a new girl who came on, and she was sitting on the couches, but no one told her, hey, you can't sit on the couch, that's for the actors, that's for the guests. She didn't know. So this motherfucker video cams her, and he sends it to everybody. And I remember telling my coworker, I said, the moment he does something like that to me, I'm cursing him the fuck out. And I meant that shit. I didn't curse him out, but I let him know about himself. So, you know, I had to change my shift. I mentioned it in the previous video. I worked the night shift. Now, when I worked the night shift, that was the third time I had to change my shift. So they was pretty much kind of, you know, pissed off at me at that point, because I was working 1 to 9, then I was working like 4 to 12, and then I was working the overnight. So this is my third time switching the shift. There were times I had to call out. I didn't really call out much, but when I did, it was always a childcare issue. So they kind of got a little frustrated with me, and I couldn't blame them because I always had a childcare issue. This is when my parents didn't want to help me. It was just rough. That was just a rough time for me. Like, after I left Barclays and I finally wanted to work full time, or it's like all hell broke loose, because I was finally working full time and my parents just was not helping me. Mind you, I was paying them. That wasn't enough. So luckily I found something that was like in a perfect schedule. Like, once I got to quality protection services, it smoothed out. And then after that, World Trade Center. And then after that, para. Once I became a para 2016, my son was in 3rd grade. I didn't need nobody to pick him up, drop him off, nothing. Perfect. So during this time, they kind of building a case on me. Some jobs are like that. When you have childcare issues and you're calling out and you're constantly asking to switch a shift, they get mad at you. It's nothing that you could control, but it is what it is. So they asked me to work 7 nights straight, and the supervisor was like, "You sure you can handle that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good, whatever." So one of the nights I called out, I was like, "Yo, I just woke up, I'm exhausted, etc., etc." They gonna be like, "Oh, it's an hour before shift, you know you're not supposed to do that." I said, "I know you're not talking to me, because I've answered the phone plenty of times to people and they've called out a half an hour before shift. This is my first time calling out 1 hour before shift. You could let me slide. Any other time I called out, like I said, I never really called out, and when I did, I always did it the proper time." I said, "You know that I work 7 days straight. Working 7 days straight is different from overnight. Because when I worked at Yankee, we used to work 14 days straight. That's not a problem. And then we have 14 days off. That's how the baseball season is. So with this now, when you work 7, anybody, all my Amazon people who work, anybody who work overnight, you know, when you work overnight 7 nights straight, that's exhausting for anybody at any age. I was only 26 years old and it wore me out. I was like, never again. I could work 5 nights straight, but 7 I was exhausted. I said, yo, if I come into work, I'm gonna be like 2-3 hours late for shift. And there's things I have to do. I have to wash up. I have to take my son to my parents. There's a lot that I have to do before I get into work. I just don't wake up and go to work. My son was still little. He didn't understand that because he's a father. He's not a mother. So, and I said that. I said, you're a father. You're not a mother. So you don't have to do what I have to do before work. So he's like, oh, da 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 da. So I know it was him that like had something to do with it. So my coworker, I'm not, to this day, I don't know if you could really call her an instigator, but the manager called her an instigator. So she was telling me like, yo, Crystal, did you check your email? Da 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 da. I'm like, no. So I go sit down, I check my email, and it says they were talking about me. They were saying I was a no call, no show. I said, me, Crystal Vals, I've never done that in my entire life. And anybody I've ever worked for, I don't care if it was door to door, I don't care if daycare, any job I've ever had, nobody could say that about me. One thing about me, I'm an excellent communicator. I communicate what the fuck is going on in my life. So once I read that, I was infuriated because that's a lie. That's a blatant lie. Y'all lying on me so y'all can have a case on me to get me in trouble to try to suspend me. Instead of coming to me like an adult, like, yo, you've been calling out and you've been switching shifts and da-da-da. What's up with you? And I would tell y'all I have childcare issues, like I've been saying. So I just couldn't understand it. And I sent a nice email. I said, if y'all got something to say about me, if y'all have a problem with Crystal Vows, y'all need to speak to me, Crystal Vows. And I said, I CC'd it so everybody could see it. Since he sent an email where everybody could see it, I sent him so the whole job could see it. So the manager responds, I've been at Steiner Studios for this amount of time. I am not incompetent. I'm like, nobody says you incompetent. He's like, if you feel a way, this is exactly what he's like, if you feel some type of way, you could go to another site. Andrew International got plenty of space for you. But if you feel some type of way, maybe Steiner Studios isn't for you anymore. I said, you ain't said nothing but a word. So it went to HR, and this was a new bitch that didn't know him. So I'm in the office, and she's like, oh, well, you should have pulled him to the side. I'm like, but he didn't pull me to the side. I said, you're new, so you don't know him. She's like, oh, he's very respectable, he's this, he's that, saying all these things about him. I was like, with all due respect, when did you come into this company? Because I've been at Steiner Studios longer than you've been with this company. I've been with Andrew for over a year. You just came, what, 2 months ago? So you don't know him. You talking about what you heard. But let me tell you about this man. I said, when I first came to Steiner Studios, he recorded my coworker, and he sent it to everybody. To me, that's not professional. If he had a problem with her, he should have told her how he felt. And that's what he does. That's very unprofessional. He feels some type of way, he sends emails to the whole job and won't say nothing to you. That's unprofessional. And why is that okay for him to act like that? She's like, oh, but you have a baby, you have a son. What does me having a son have to do with anything? At the end of the day, I felt away. So yes, I responded to the email. It had my name in it. They was talking about me. So yes, I'm gonna say, I said it. If you have something to say to me, you need to direct it to Crystal Vows, not the whole site of 20 employees. And so she couldn't get my point. She's like, oh, he's saying to suspend you. I said, that's fine. So that give me time to look for another job. And I told her that. So I didn't wait for her. I went on interviews, and I found me another, one thing, the beautiful thing about security, once you have experience, they hire you like that. They hire you like that because you got the experience. So I went to Quality Protection Services. I wrote a little statement that I'm leaving Andrew International, and I was done. But at the end of the day, it's just crazy that I'm looked upon as I'm wrong because